Great. Well, thank you very much for joining us for this conversation about changes in our society. And I'm really happy to be here with my friend and longtime colleague who's just written a book called Dude, Where's My Black Studies Department? The Disappearance of Black Americans from Our Universities. And this book is about the kind of situation that's happening at the University of California, where African American students have now dropped to virtually disappear since Proposition 209. And I have Cecil here. We've been friends for 40 years, and he was involved. And I'd like to ask him to share. He wrote the book, but I'd like to ask him to share a story about his own experience growing up in South Carolina, North Carolina, and learning about education. And Cecil, would you? This is a great story about his experience in the South, in a very important and pivotal moment in the evolution of African American education. Cecil.
Thank you, Carl. Yeah, it's true we've known each other a long time since our days back at Columbia. But before I got to Columbia, I had a story that I want to share with your viewing audience. I was one of those kids who got 40 acres and a mule as was supposed to be bequeathed to us by the post-Reconstruction era. So I had a mule. His name was Big Red, and I was plowing Big Red when I got the news that I had a scholarship to A&T College in Greensboro, North Carolina. The circumstances that produced this scholarship were as follows. I come from a very, very small town. We are all descendants from the slave plantation, which is on the Cape Fear River, and from whence my father and my mother came from, this area. And we lived about 30 miles from the plantation. And I was plowing my mule, and when I got the notice that I had a scholarship. Now, I came by the scholarship because our band teacher gave his car to me and a couple of my buddies who were in the band to go to Wilmington, North Carolina, which is the next big town, to take this SAT test. And we did, and the result was that all three of us got scholarships. Now, the exam may have been taken by other students. I'm not sure if that was the case, but probably not. In any case, once I got to A&T North Carolina, this was in Greensboro, 1960, 61. I think it's 1961, actually. When I arrived at this school, I dormed in what is called Scott Hall, and among my classmates were, many young people like me, coming from the South, coming from small farms and so forth. And one day in one of our classes, we all took the same classes pretty much. I was thinking of majoring in sociology, so it must have been a sociology class. Well, a young man who was half an hour late for class, whose name you will know now as Jesse Jackson, was standing in the doorway of the classroom, and the teacher, Dr. Prince, said to him, "Now, Mr. Jackson, explain to me in the class why you are late." And Jesse, as I said, I knew him from my dormitory. I was waiting to see what he was going to say. And he said, "I was across the street at the Woolworth 5 and Dime protesting the fact that blacks are not allowed to eat there, not even allowed to have a cup of coffee." And the teacher's reaction was one that shocked me, and is still part of my memory bank, because while I thought she was going to turn and say, "Mr. Jackson, I'm going to reprimand you, and you're going to have to go home and write an essay," instead she said, "Great, that's what you were doing," and she turned to the rest of us and said, "That's what you should be doing too."
Wow, this is a great story, and it's something that is a very interesting uh, story against the backdrop now of the major universities around the country, where some advances were made during the 1960s, and we were able to get African American students into the university to study. And now what we see is a great rollback and and the really decline of black students and faculty, and you've documented that in this book called Dude, Where's My Black Studies Department? Do you want to tell us what's in the book and how is that related to your earlier experiences that you just talked about?
Well, I began the book with a walk across campus that I'm taking, and I'm reflecting on when I came to Berkeley in the late 1960s, and I was teaching in the English department. This would be 1969, 69, and 70. And there were lots of blacks teaching. In fact, I'm in the English department. There was also David Henderson, a poet and a friend of ours. And I'm teaching there, and I saw lots of students. In fact, my class would have 200 students, 200 black students interested in Afro-American literature. Now, of course, you can't find 200 black students anywhere near a UC campus. Well, not long after that, when Reagan came into power, the antagonism towards Afro-American students grew in a very noticeable way, so that one day I came out of my office at UC Berkeley and I looked across campus and saw a helicopter swarming down on students dropping tear gas as if we were in Vietnam. That was a great shock for me because, as I said before, the Afro-American students and professors and deans at A&T were glad to see us correct or wrong by going out in this community and then coming back and pulling up the drawbridge, as it were, protected in the enclave of our education. Our teachers, I still remember the great inspiration the deans and the president of A&T College gave all of us, and inspired Jesse, of course, to become the famous person that he is, and the rest of us too. But at Berkeley, when I came to teach it here at UC, and also when I was down at Merritt College and at San Francisco State, you could see that the attitude towards black students getting an equal education was turned against them by the university professors, by the deans, by Howard Kawa, the president of San Francisco, and it still remains that way today. So in my book, I just try to trace the history so that those young people and those older people who may have forgotten can be reminded of not just the importance of education, but the different attitude that white professors at UC Berkeley and administrators have towards blacks coming into the university. So the third part of the book, the first part deals with my kind of situation at Berkeley, and the second part about the history of affirmative action. The third part deals with what I think are some of the solutions. And part of the solution, I think, must include a change of attitude, a dismantling of the racist views that some whites have towards blacks coming into the university, and first of all, just facing up to the racism and stop pretending that this society is one that doesn't have racist feeling towards black students. And the other thing is to try to bring in some of the oral traditions into the new digital world so that they can be a meshing of the traditions that blacks bring and the traditions that are already prevalent in our society.
Well, thank you very much, Cecil. The book is called Dude, Where's My Black Studies Department? It has been endorsed by Henry Louis Gates at Harvard University, and Michael Eric Dyson, who's a famous scholar, Ishmael Reed, and it also is endorsed by Michael Moore, who's a famous filmmaker who has been one of the people who has been supporting Cecil's work. Go out and buy this book, and we want to have discussions in our communities about what we should do about the situation of our universities not meeting the needs of our communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, that was terrific.
So what we can do is we can, play this